Hi, thank you for taking the time. This project was designed with the understanding that personal and public health decisions regarding the COVID-19 vaccine require accurate interpretation of publicly available clinical trial data. Unfortunately, misinterpretation and misrepresentation of clinical trial results have frequently occurred, and this may be playing a role in vaccine hesitancy. The goal of this project is to provide a systematic assessment of the risks, efficacy, and methodological quality of evidence from clinical trials of 5 major vaccines widely distributed. This analysis represents a model for improving the reporting of multiple clinical trials in the context of a public health crisis. We compiled and summarized the interim results in a central location for easy and transparent assessment for 5 vaccines known as the Pfizer, Moderna, AstraZeneca, Johnson & Johnson, and Sputnik vaccines. The overall quality and certainty of evidence was rated for each outcome individually through a grade evidence profile, which is a widely accepted framework for assessing the risk of bias in reporting. An example of these summaries is shown in Table 2 on the far upper right-hand side of the poster. Benefits were summarized according to the intention to treat model and adverse events summarized using the per protocol approach. As you can see in Figure 1, all the vaccines were effective at preventing symptomatic cases both after the first dose and after the pre-designated effective period for each vaccine. In Figure 2, we see that AstraZeneca and Pfizer both failed to reach significant reductions in severe cases, and in Figure 3, you see that none demonstrated efficacy against reducing number of deaths in the trial. Only in Johnson & Johnson showed a significant reduction in all-cause mortality. However, a closer look at the figures demonstrates that the reason for this reported lack of efficacy was actually a very low number of events during the trial period. This is a potential source of misinterpretation, which is an important thing to highlight. Simply put, any significant decrease in COVID-19 cases will translate into a fewer number of deaths or serious cases. Thus, these findings should not be a cause of concern. When designing this analysis, we understood that many people have come to accept minor reactions such as arm swelling or fever as an acceptable and normal complication of the vaccines. However, most clinical trials did not highlight the evidence as it relates to only serious adverse events, which we do in Figure 4. Here, there is no difference between the vaccines and the placebo arms across all trials. Even when focusing only on serious events that were attributed by an expert panel to be directly related to the vaccines, events failed to reach significance. Across the bottom in Table 1, we report the overall certainty of evidence for each outcome, which largely ranged from low to moderate. Certainty was downrated due to risk of bias for outcomes being reported only following the per protocol approach and data not being available for all participants vaccinated or randomized. Many of the secondary outcomes were downrated due to imprecision from a low number of events, though this should be taken as a known and reasonable limitation to the trial designs. There are some important conclusions that can be taken away from this analysis. First, risk of bias can be mitigated by improving transparency and thoroughness in the reporting of outcomes, and this should be demanded by the scientific community for all large clinical trials. This level of transparency may improve communication surrounding the vaccines and may reduce the overall volume of circulating misinformation. Second, it's tempting to look at these results and make absolute claims regarding which vaccine is most effective. This is something we cannot quantify, and attempting to do so would represent a transitive fallacy. To make these claims, you would require a head-to-head clinical trial, which is not necessary since all the vaccines were found to be effective. Finally, lots of information has since been gathered regarding adverse events due to the vaccines. It's important to note that events later attributed to the vaccines actually occur more frequently in COVID-19 positive patients. Thus, the vaccines lead to an absolute risk reduction in these same adverse events, demonstrating the accuracy of the conclusions drawn from the original trials analyzed here in this study. Overall, the preliminary information showed that the COVID-19 vaccines are safe and effective. Public health initiatives should be chosen based on which vaccine is available, publicly accepted, and the cost. Future clinical trials should be more transparent in the reporting, and we should work to promptly consolidate clinical trial data in a central manner so that all stakeholders are armed with the information needed to make decisions and communicate with the public effectively. Thank you for your time.